In January 2017, what started as an ordinary family evening turned into a nightmare when a residence in Kitsap County, Washington, erupted in flames. Within the burning structure lay 3 bodies, all victims of gunshot wounds before the dwelling was deliberately ignited. A frantic emergency call pierced the night. "My entire family has been shot. I've been shot too." The caller desperately provided the address, 13417 290th Drive West, pleading for immediate help. "I'm wounded right now. My family is dead," the voice cried out before the line went silent. 2 days following this horrific discovery, another member of the Careaga family was found burned and shot, abandoned in his vehicle deep within the wilderness. This wasn't a random act of violence. Someone had deliberately targeted this family for elimination. But who orchestrated this massacre? And what dark secrets were they attempting to conceal? The Careaga family, a picture of success. The Careaga household appeared to be like any other loving, blended family, creating their life together in Kitsap County, Washington. At its heart was 43-year-old Johnny Careaga, recognized throughout the community for his astute business acumen and generous nature. His spouse, 37-year-old Lynn Careaga, radiated warmth and brought happiness to everything she encountered. Together, they had established a stable household and a flourishing business enterprise. Johnny and Crystal had wed in 2009, each contributing a son from their previous relationships to form their new family unit. 16-year-old Jonathan Felipe Higgins and 16-year-old Hunter Evanshop were typical teenagers who brought laughter, vitality, and occasional teenage mayhem to their home. By all accounts, they were incredibly close, like biological brothers, and viewed Johnny and Crystal as the foundation that kept their family united. Beyond their domestic life, the Careagas were prospering professionally. Crystal operated a well-known coffee establishment called Kale's Java Hut, while she and Johnny jointly owned Juanito's Taco Shop, a cherished Mexican restaurant in nearby Bremerton. Their reputation carried significant influence in the local business community, and they weren't merely successful. They were also prominent figures, familiar faces serving customers, regular attendees at school functions, a family that outwardly appeared to be excelling in every aspect of life. However, beneath this seemingly perfect facade, something sinister was developing, something that remained hidden from their customers, neighbors, and even their closest companions. The fatal night. The tragedy began on what seemed like an ordinary Friday evening. Crystal Careaga had invited friends to their home for the type of casual social gathering that appeared harmless and routine. Inside the residence, there was conversation, laughter, and the typical atmosphere of people relaxing after a lengthy workday. Meanwhile, Johnny Careaga was also at home, but his evening took an unexpected turn when he received a telephone call that appeared urgent. He informed his family that he needed to leave briefly to meet someone, promising he would return quickly. And he did return, though something was amiss. Instead of entering the house, Johnny remained in the garage. One of the guests, sensing something wasn't right, went to check on him. What they overheard next sent a wave of unease through the air. 3 men engaged in what sounded like a heated, loud argument. This conversation, overheard in the darkness of the garage, would be the final clue anyone had before the night descended into deadly chaos. As the situation began to spiral out of control, a desperate emergency call shattered the quiet at Bremerton's dispatch center. On the other end was 16-year-old Hunter Shop, terrified and pleading for assistance. He told the dispatcher that he and his family had been shot and begged them to hurry. But before he could provide any additional information, the line abruptly went dead. "Someone's here with a gun. I don't know, you need to come now." "How many people?" "I don't know, just come." "Where are you shot?" "I'm dying, I don't know what happened." What occurred next was unspeakable. In a final act of cold, calculated cruelty, Hunter was suffocated with a pillow and then executed with a gunshot to the head. The horrific discovery. When first responders arrived at the scene, they encountered a nightmare. Flames consumed the Careaga residence, crackling through what had once been a place of warmth and family life. Inside, they discovered the bodies of Crystal, Hunter, and Jonathan, 3 lives extinguished in mere moments. The attack was deliberate, brutal, and represented only one part of a larger, more sinister story. 2 days later, the final horror was uncovered in a remote section of Mason County, deep within a quiet tree farm near Belfair. There, inside a charred Ford F-150 pickup truck, lay the burned and broken remains of Johnny Careaga. He had been shot, his vehicle torched, and his body left to be consumed by the wilderness. A caretaker who worked on the property told investigators something peculiar. Johnny had actually been seen on the land earlier that same day, but he hadn't arrived in his truck. This detail, like numerous others, raised more questions than it answered. Who were the 3 men in the garage? Why did Johnny return home but never enter the house? And what did someone desire badly enough to annihilate an entire family? The investigation reveals disturbing details. As investigators examined the wreckage of the Careaga home, a deeper, more sinister picture of that night's events began to emerge. According to the Kitsap County Fire Marshal's office, this fire wasn't simply intended to destroy evidence. It was meant to send a message. Fire accelerants had been deliberately placed on beds at opposite ends of the house, precisely where Crystal, Hunter, and Jonathan had died. This wasn't random. It was a well-planned, methodically executed crime. As if that wasn't sufficient, large rocks had been hurled through windows, shattering glass to allow oxygen in and feed the flames with ruthless precision. Whoever orchestrated this didn't just want the family dead. They wanted to erase their entire existence.
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
However, the fire, destructive as it was, didn't conceal everything. As detectives moved through the burned-out shell of the once warm home, they stumbled upon something shocking. Inside the master bedroom, tucked away in a strongbox, was more than $50,000 in cash, and beside it, a separate money bag containing another $7,000. The killers hadn't taken a single penny, which meant robbery wasn't the motive. If money wasn't what they sought, then what was the reason for destroying an entire family? Johnny's double life exposed. This is when Johnny Careaga's secret life came to light. Until this point, the murders seemed almost senseless, cold, calculated, and cruel. But as investigators dug deeper, a darker layer began to surface. This wasn't just a random act of violence or a family dispute gone horribly wrong. According to law enforcement, while Johnny operated a family business during the day, behind the scenes he was involved in a much more dangerous operation: smuggling and selling cocaine, reportedly bringing back kilograms from California every few months to distribute in Kitsap County. This secret may have cost his entire family their lives. Detectives working alongside FBI special agents eventually developed a chilling theory. This was no isolated crime. It was a hit carried out by members and associates of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club. The Bandidos Motorcycle Club, more than just bikers. For those unfamiliar, the Bandidos aren't your typical biker organization. They're an international outlaw motorcycle club recognized by federal agencies as a criminal organization. In their world, loyalty is everything, and betrayal, real or perceived, can be fatal. It turned out that some of the people purchasing cocaine from Johnny were patch members of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club's Bremerton chapter. The Bandidos Motorcycle Club is known worldwide, but especially by law enforcement agencies, as more than just a group of motorcycle enthusiasts. Officially, they claim to be merely a club of riders who share brotherhood and passion for bikes. But authorities in many countries view things differently. To them, the Bandidos are classified as an outlaw motorcycle gang, meaning they're connected to serious criminal activities. While the Bandidos themselves deny being a criminal organization, the reality tells a different story. Members of the club have been convicted of a wide range of crimes, including theft, extortion, prostitution rings, drug trafficking, and even murder. The list of criminal acts connected to them is extensive and chilling. Racketeering, drug and arms trafficking, assault, money laundering, loan sharking, contract killing, trafficking in stolen goods, motor vehicle theft, and counterfeiting. In Washington state alone, the Bandidos have 14 chapters and are known to be deeply involved in methamphetamine distribution and violent crime. Back in 1985, authorities conducted a massive crackdown on the Bandidos in Washington, arresting 13 members on drugs and weapons charges in places like Bellingham, Everett, and Puyallup. This wasn't a simple police raid. It was a result of a 16-month investigation involving the FBI, DEA, and ATF. The club's violent nature is evident from incidents like one in 2000 when a deadly shootout occurred between the Bandidos and a rival gang called the Iron Horsemen at a motorcycle rally. One Bandidos member was killed, another wounded, and the rival gang's member was critically injured. This fight wasn't just about territory. It was fueled by a drug dispute, highlighting how the gang's conflicts often turn deadly. In 2005, the Bandidos' criminal activities came under even deeper scrutiny when 32 members and associates from Washington and Montana were indicted on serious charges like conspiracy to commit murder, witness tampering, violent crimes related to organized crime, drug offenses, and weapons violations. The fatal connection. One of Johnny's close friends, someone he trusted, had been helping sell cocaine on Johnny's behalf. That same friend started conducting business with a man named Robert Bobby Watson, a high-ranking Bandidos member. It's unclear whether Watson was purchasing for himself or reselling the product for profit. But when that friend withdrew and severed ties, it forced Johnny and Watson into direct communication. That's when things took a dangerous turn. After the fallout, Johnny made one of his regular trips to California, but this time Bobby Watson followed him. The two men reportedly had a heated confrontation. Words were exchanged, tempers flared, and lines were likely crossed. Whatever was said, whatever happened during that confrontation, it lit the fuse. Just weeks later, Johnny's entire family would be dead. But the real question remains, was Johnny the only target? Or was this assassination carried out to prove a point to others as well? The mastermind, Robert Bobby Watson. If Johnny Careaga had a target on his back, the man allegedly holding the weapon was Robert James Watson, a name whispered with fear even in circles accustomed to violence. Known as Bobby to his inner circle, Watson wasn't just some rogue biker with a temper. He was the vice president of the Bandidos Motorcycle Club's Bellingham chapter and, according to law enforcement, the suspected mastermind behind the Careaga family massacre. What made things even more chilling was Bobby's behavior after the murders. When fellow Bandidos members questioned him about his involvement, Bobby gave mixed responses, dodging, deflecting, and offering conflicting versions of the truth. It was as if he couldn't keep his story straight or didn't care enough about consistency. Despite Bobby's high rank, not everyone in the Bandidos supported what had happened. The chapter's president openly condemned the killings, especially the brutal deaths of women and children. He even cooperated with investigation, drawing a line between loyalty to the club and pure savagery. In the biker world, codes of conduct are murky, but killing an entire family crossed every boundary, even among criminals. The co-conspirators. Then there was Johnny James Watson, Bobby's younger brother, a resident of Bremerton. Johnny Watson wasn't affiliated with the Bandidos, and as far as records show, he had no direct ties to the club's criminal activity. But blood runs deep, and being Bobby Watson's brother automatically placed him under suspicion. What did he know? What did he hear? And most importantly, what role, if any, did he play? Perhaps the most tragic twist comes in the form of Danny J. Kelly Jr. Kelly wasn't a full-fledged member of the Bandidos, but he was close, too close. As a hangaround, he was considered a prospect in waiting, someone looking to earn his patch, and his ticket into the inner circle was none other than Bobby Watson. Kelly was frequently spotted wearing Bandidos supporter gear and made no secret of his ambitions. But that's not what made his involvement so heartbreaking. Years earlier, Danny Kelly had been one of Johnny Careaga's closest friends. So close, in fact, that Johnny chose him to stand beside him as best man on his wedding day. It was a bond that should have lasted a lifetime, but something went wrong. Their friendship deteriorated after Johnny accused Danny of stealing from him, an accusation that seemed to sever whatever trust remained between them. What happened in the time between friendship and betrayal? What transformed a best man into a suspected killer? And more importantly, how many of these relationships were corrupting from within long before bullets and fire destroyed the Careaga home? This wasn't just a story of crime. It was a story of bonds built on lies, brotherhoods poisoned by greed, and loyalty wrapped in violence. Justice finally served. After years of relentless pursuit, the pieces of the Careaga family puzzle finally fell into place, prompting law enforcement to establish a dedicated task force solely focused on unraveling the truth behind the brutal quadruple homicide. This wasn't just another cold case file collecting dust. It became a high-stakes mission fueled by the urgency to hold those responsible accountable for the devastation they left behind. The net tightened, and one by one, the three men believed to have orchestrated and executed the attack, Danny Kelly Jr., Robert Bobby Watson, and Johnny Watson, were finally taken into custody. Their names, once whispered rumors in dark corners, now echoed loudly through the halls of the Kitsap County Jail. Even in arrest, they maintained their stance, pleading not guilty to a staggering list of felony charges that included aggravated murder, arson, and burglary. The weight of 16 felony counts hung over each of them, like a sword suspended by a thread. A judge, recognizing the gravity of their alleged crimes and the risk they posed, ordered that none of the three be granted bail. They were stripped of any right to possess firearms, alcohol, or drugs unless medically necessary. And in a move to prevent collusion, the court forbade any contact between the men. It was clear the system was determined to keep them separated, isolated, and under strict watch until justice could run its course. Then came the verdict that would finally close the darkest chapter in Kitsap County's recent history. In April 2024, after months of intense trial proceedings, the court found Kelly, Bobby Watson, and Johnny Watson guilty on 30 counts, ranging from first-degree and premeditated murder to arson and other serious charges. The chilling nature of the crimes, the cold-blooded killing, and the deliberate destruction of the family home left no room for mercy. On May 7, 2024, the sentence was handed down: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. No hope of freedom, no second chances. The Careaga killers would spend the rest of their lives behind bars, held accountable for shattering a family and tearing a community apart. For the investigators who had chased leads, endured dead ends, and pieced together every clue, it was a hard-earned victory, a grim reminder of the cost of violence, but a promise that justice, however delayed, would prevail. The family's pain and closure. As the courtroom prepared for sentencing, the atmosphere was heavy with grief and emotion as loved ones of the victims stepped forward to share their memories and pain. Hunter Shop's mother, Carly Shop, brought a powerful and heartbreaking presence to the room, when she placed an urn holding her son's ashes on a table next to his photograph, right by the lectern where family members spoke. 8 relatives, carrying the weight of their loss, spoke directly to the court, not only sharing fond memories of their loved ones, but also urging the judge to deliver the harshest penalties possible to the men found guilty. They also thanked the jury, who after a grueling trial lasting more than 5 months, found Kelly and the Watson brothers guilty. Carly and other family members spoke openly about the deep pain and suffering that has plagued their blended family ever since that tragic night in January 2017. It was satisfying to be able to look them in the eye and see these monsters finally. You can sense the evil just by looking at them and being in the same room as them, they shared. Several relatives described how these feelings created an atmosphere that was impossible to escape. To make matters worse, in 2018, they suffered another blow when Joseph Careaga, a young family member, died in a car crash near Hansville. This additional loss only deepened the sorrow and pain already weighing heavily on their hearts. A haunting reminder. The tragic story of the Careaga family serves as a haunting reminder of how deep pain can ripple far beyond the immediate loss, touching the lives of loved ones and entire communities. What began as a quiet life ended in unimaginable violence, fueled by a dark underworld most would rather not see. Even as justice was served with life sentences, the shadows left behind linger. As the dust settles, it leaves you wondering how many more lives are quietly caught in the crossfire of secrets and violence we'll never fully understand. The Careaga family massacre stands as one of Washington's most brutal crimes, a stark reminder of how quickly ordinary lives can be shattered by the violent world of organized crime and betrayal.